if there is going to be a change, there needs to be a timetable for that change that is long enough to allow Andy Burnham to get into Parliament, either because they would like him to get the job, or as one Labour MSP put it to me earlier, whoever wins will always be compared with what might have been if Andy Burnham had got the job if he hasn't been defeated in a contest. Then there are others who do not want Andy Burnham involved, who say that, well, if he is the king of the north, which refers to his position in the north of England, perhaps he should try his hand further north and stand in the by-elections in the north of Scotland that are being created because Stephen Flynn
over 2 kilometer. Op de rotonde neem de tweede afslag naar A701. Dan op de rotonde neem de vierde afslag naar A74 M towards Glasgow.
Just one thing we're reporting just now, it seems that perhaps allies of Angela Rayner, whose name is also being mentioned, says she's prepared to run for PM if required. They're obviously briefing our colleagues on the BBC channel. Glenn, it seems as though the split remains between Labour MPs at Westminster and Labour MPs at Holyrood. Labour MPs at Westminster, certainly the ones I spoke to, backing Keir Starmer, saying the time is not right today. However, Anas Sarwar, leader of Scottish Labour, doubled down on his calls for Starmer to go. So a split there as well.
To some extent, I think in most places there are probably views on either side of the argument. Yes, Anas Sarwar maintains his position taken some 3 months ago that the Prime Minister should go, and his deputy Jackie Baillie saying today that she also thinks that the Prime Minister should consider the
over 1 kilometer. Op de rotonde neem de tweede afslag. Dan op de rotonde neem de vierde afslag naar A74 M towards Glasgow.
Meeting as a group at 6:30 this evening, and I'm told we'll certainly be talking about the elections and what should flow from those rotten results from a Labour point of view. But I think we're around 10 MPs from that group saying that Keir Starmer should go or should set some sort of timetable for his departure and for a smooth transition to somebody else.
Glenn, thank you so much. I know you're on hand at Westminster. Anything happens significantly, we will sure have you back on, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's Glenn Campbell, BBC Scotland's political editor. Now, it's not just MPs and here's what callers
Dan op de
to our
rotonde neem de
morning's
vierde
programme
afslag
told
naar
BBC Radio Scotland.
A74 M
We've
towards
got a bit of a
Glasgow.
culture just now where we just seem to be swapping them in and out all the time. If we're, if the party's not happy with how they're performing, it's very quick to judge it. And he might be the leader, but it takes the
Op
whole
de
party
rotonde
and
neem de
everybody doing
vierde
their job
afslag
in
naar
their role to make this
A74
work.
M towards Glasgow.
Lost its identity. And I think when you've got a Labour leader who's Sir Keir Starmer, that kind of tells you a lot, about what the roots of the Labour Party are supposed to be about. But it's no surprise that young people have went to the Greens.
I won his mandate, and I think for the country it's embarrassing on the international stage that we're back in this rigmarole of changing leaders constantly. We went through it with the Tories, and it seems like Labour are just keen to do exactly the same.
It's probably time for the Prime Minister to go. The Mandelson affair's been rumbling on for a number of months now. I think he should have probably fallen on his sword before that.
I'm not a Labour supporter, I have to say, but I've got to the stage where I'm beginning to feel a bit sorry for Keir Starmer. And I don't think that we need a change of personality.
Ga
I think
recht
we
door
need
gedurende
a change
50,6
in the way
kilometer
that we
naar
actually
junction
think
10 to
about governing the
B7008.
UK.
Well, mix of views there. Let's bring in Labour peer and former MP and MSP Lord George Fowkes. Good to speak to you as always, Lord Fowkes.
Yes,
I just want to hear your thoughts first of all in the last 24 hours. It's been non-stop, almost changing hour by hour. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's been a lot of idle speculation in the media and a lot of lies and gossip perpetrated, as Beth Rigby admitted today that on Sky that she had told lie about Yvette Cooper challenging the Prime Minister. So I think you have to be very careful before repeating some of the things that come out of the media down south. And Glenn, his long, complicated summary there, said that the government had 100 MPs supporting the Prime Minister. No, backbenchers have got together, not the backbenchers have got together and Minister. And one of the reasons is because all of this speculation is causing trouble in the money markets, and the cost for mortgages of all their constituents is going up as a result of this speculation. And that's why it's good that the Prime Minister has made it absolutely clear, and the Cabinet have made it absolutely clear that the Prime Minister is going on.
I was going to ask you that. That was the next question, Lord Fowkes. So there's 4 ministers have now resigned. Starmer tells the Cabinet he'll get on with the governing. What is your views on whether or not he should stay or not, or indeed set out a timetable, perhaps?
Well, he should stay. There's no doubt about that. Of course he should.
What about the results in the local elections in England, the thrashing they got there, the thrashing they got in Scotland, the thrashing they got in Wales? Is he not responsible for that?
You've used the word thrashing. In fact, the results in England in terms of lost seats was not as bad as was forecast. And in Scotland, I think it's a question that Anna's Sarwar and Jackie Bailey need to answer. And I think I don't want them to, either of them to resign, but I think they need to rethink their policies and their campaign. And it was that I think was the most important issue here, or should have been the most important issue here. But the Prime Minister has been doing a good job. I think there has been, unfortunately, a lack of presentation of what has been happening in terms of tenants' rights, workers' rights, poverty eradication.
What about the winter fuel payments? Were you comfortable with that?
Sorry?
What about the winter fuel payments for pensioners? A lot of Labour MPs I spoke to on and off the record pointed to that as being a really, really badly flawed decision.
I'm glad you asked me about that, because I used to work for Age Concern, and I wrote an article in The Guardian when that was announced, the winter fuel allowance being cut, and I criticised it, and the government changed because of the representations that some of us made. And that's a government, it was described in the media as a U-turn, as if it was something bad. In fact, it was the government listening to people who understood the position, and in fact, winter fuel allowance goes now to the people who need it, not to me. I was getting it, but I didn't need it. But now it goes to people who need it. So the government listened, and listened on that, and listened on a number of other things. But I think that MPs should spend more time telling their constituents the positive things that the government is doing.
Lord Fowkes, what do you think Sir Keir Starmer has to do to, first of all, convince his own Labour MPs and some MSPs who we've heard from who are also calling for him to resign, and secondly, convince the public? So 2 things. What does he do to convince his own people, and secondly, the public?
Well, tomorrow, you know what's going to happen tomorrow? The King's speech. And in the King's speech, the King will speak on behalf of the government and lay out the plans for the next session of Parliament. And I think there'll be positive, radical things that Labour MPs will like and should support and should get behind Keir Starmer's leadership. And then I do think that we need to rethink how we can get our messages over more effectively. I think that's one thing where we have failed, to get over to people. I mean, I saw Sharon Graham, the General Secretary of Unite, on the television at the weekend, saying that we hadn't done anything. We've done more for her workers, for her members, than she's done. It really is astonishing that the leader of a trade union like that doesn't know the kind of, or pretends she doesn't know, because I think she's got another agenda, what the government has done for her workers, for her members.
Why do you think then these 80-plus MPs, and we're hearing that there's potentially another government minister going to step down as well, why do they not want him as Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party? Why are they looking to support other candidates?
Because I think they've been caught up by the media hype, the right-wing media, and they haven't realised that most of the newspapers are owned by multi-millionaires, tax exiles, who don't pay tax in the United Kingdom, and are wanting to get rid of Starmer, and they want reform in. And Reform said, vote for us in the local elections to get rid of Starmer, not to get a Reform Council or a Reform MSP, but to get rid of Starmer. And some of our MPs have fallen for that, unfortunately. And I hope that they will rethink and understand that their loyalty is to the party and to the leader of the party and come behind it. And I also hope people in the media will stop concentrating on this. Have you just seen what Ben Habib has said about the millions of money that they went to Boris
rigged, but I do appreciate your input. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the Labour peer, former MP and MSP Lord George Fowkes there. Indeed, I think they would deny that certainly the election was rigged and they had any part of that. Let's stick to the Prime Minister's leadership for another minute. Jim Murphy, former leader of Scottish Labour, has spoken to the BBC in just the last few minutes. He says there are bigger questions to be asked of the Labour Party.
Sometimes when you're in Parliament, you have a responsibility, and you have a responsibility for both your words and your actions. Blaming one person, Keir Starmer, for all of the Labour Party's problems, I think, is superficial and very narrow. The Labour Party's problems, they might not like me saying this, the Labour Party's challenges are much deeper than who leads it, because their politics, social democratic politics, is in retreat all across Europe. They haven't quite come to terms with populism on the left and the right, driven by algorithmic politics, where the algorithm drives us all towards content that makes us angry. So they can have their argument about who they want to be leader and what the process is, but until they understand and have a proper conversation about what's the role of a modern social democratic Labour Party in the artificial intelligence age, I think that'll be a pretty superficial set of conclusions they come to.
That's Jim Murphy speaking there, former leader of Scottish Labour. We'll have more on this moving situation as it happens. You can follow minute by minute on the BBC website live page. Coming up, it is Eurovision Week. The world's biggest music competition is back. This year it's taking place in the home of Mozart, Schubert and Strauss, Austria. The first round of the semi-finals are taking place tonight. Here's a snippet of the UK entry.
If only there was a language that I could count in that would make me feel better. Oh yeah.
We will find out more from a Eurovision superfan very shortly. Now, the MV Hondius departed Tenerife from the Netherlands on Monday after the final 6 passengers and some crew members disembarked after the hantavirus outbreak. Authorities have confirmed 3 more positive cases linked to the deadly outbreak. In total, there are 7 confirmed cases, 2 suspected infections. Jill Halliday is due to be travelling on the cruise ship for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Antarctica in December. We spoke to her earlier.
Well, we were obviously booked this a few months ago, and then the other night we were sitting watching the news, which we don't normally do actually, and the name of the boat that we are supposed to be travelling on popped up on the screen, and because we didn't have the volume on, so I was a bit confused. I'm like, I'm sure that's the name of our boat. So I said to my partner, so we put the volume on, and obviously the news about the hantavirus was going everywhere. We didn't hear anything at all from the company that we booked through, and it's quite an expensive trip, as you can imagine. But even after the news came out, they were still, happy to take the money and not say anything about it, because they must have known long before it was on the news about everything that was happening. So we're just pretty shocked, really.
So when you switched on that TV and realised that the hantavirus was on that ship you booked, I mean literally a few hours prior, whatever was going through your minds?
It was just disbelief. We were really shocked. And then obviously we were researching quite a lot to find out what was going on. And obviously, it is a lifetime trip. It's for my partner's retirement. It's also his birthday. So it was a lot of effort and time going into organising it all. But yeah, just disbelief that the company hadn't been in touch to inform us, and presumably no one else had been informed either that it's got future trips booked. Yeah, my partner was really shocked as well, and horrified that because he's paying out as time goes on for all the different parts of the holiday, and nobody had been in touch. And obviously our families are concerned as well that we're potentially going into something that's risky. And I had messages from family saying, well, what are you going to do? And we're thinking, well, maybe we can't go. We both enjoy adventure type holidays, so we reassurance that it's going to be safe and some transparency from the company wouldn't go amiss.
So how much, if you don't mind, how much did this trip cost?
So by the time we've paid for everything, including insurance and flights, and we have got a little bit of an add-on at the end, we're spending a few days in Buenos Aires and heading out to Uruguay as well. But upwards of about 30 grand in total.
I mean, certainly a trip of a lifetime, or was it's going to be. So the company you booked it through were yet to be in touch with you until yesterday, and you decided to reach out to them. What have they told you?
Yeah, well, we were kind of waiting for them to get in touch with us, thinking, surely they're going to get in touch and inform us, because at that point we hadn't actually booked our flights when all the news came out about it. But there was nothing, and then my partner had been away for a few days, and his daughter got in touch with me saying that she was really worried about it. So then I got in touch saying we should really be speaking to them. So my partner, when he came back, had emailed them, but unless he had emailed them, I'm not sure they were going to contact us at all.
What are you going to do now? How do you feel?
Well, pretty let down, really. This is potentially going to be quite an issue. It might be cancelled. So yeah, really let down by the company, to be honest. I mean, we're still hoping to go. And we're still really excited about going if it's safe. But yeah, transparency would be great.
Jill Halliday there, due to be travelling on the cruise ship for a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Time now for your local and national news. It's just gone 5:30. Craig's got your very latest.
4 ministers have now resigned from the UK government, joining more than 80 other Labour MPs in calling for the Prime Minister to announce plans to stand down. Scottish MP and Health Minister Zubair Ahmed is the latest to quit. We've been speaking to our political editor, Glenn Campbell.
He, in a statement, Zubair Ahmed said that there is a lack of values-driven leadership, and he believes the public have irretrievably lost confidence in the Prime Minister, and has specifically called for him to step aside. So he is the latest to add his voice to growing calls within Labour for the Prime Minister either to stand down or set a timetable for doing so, although it is said that the government has a list of 100 MPs who are still backing the Prime Minister.
Meanwhile, the deputy leader of Scottish Labour says the Prime Minister has lost the confidence of his backbenchers and the country, and he should maybe consider the calls for him to go in an orderly fashion. Dame Jackie Bailey says both she and her leader, Anna Summer, stand by calls they made earlier this year for Sir Keir to quit Number 10.
Anna Summer was very clear in his view back in February. He was being honest and truthful with people. He's not resigned from that opinion, neither have I. The one thing I would say to you is, having knocked thousands of doors in the past few weeks, I can tell you that Sir Keir Starmer's name did come up on very many doors, and there's a level of dissatisfaction, whether it's justified or not. That's what people are feeling, and we need to pay attention to that.
A 5th man's been jailed for 8.5 years in Ukraine after passing secrets to Russia. Ross David Kirkmuirhill from Dumfries was in Ukraine to train with soldiers, but went on to share information with Moscow's intelligence services that included details about other foreign structures who were working with Ukrainian forces and the locations of training centres. He was also found to be in possession of a Soviet-era pistol and ammunition without a licence. A man to stand trial accused of smuggling 14 Albanian nationals into Scotland. Patrick John McKinney of Kirkmuirhill in Northern Ireland was held in December 2024 after a truck was stopped on the Brian ferry terminal in Kirkmuirhill. Prosecutors claim he was illegally out of arrest and enslaved 13 men. Radio Scotland News.
Christopher, say with the weather, that's even older than the out-of-date cream egg I brought you in on Friday breakfast after Easter. I'll say something. Anyway, here's the forecast. I swear there might be hail in Aberdeen today.
Oh, there will be, absolutely. And the rumble of thunder and some of the heaviest showers today, and quite blustery winds with it as well. So when those showers rattle through, it's quite a changing conditions, with showers producing pretty unpleasant spells of weather for a short period, and then they blow through again and the sunshine reappears. And there's a similar picture through the rest of this afternoon into this evening, those showers sticking with us. Overnight tonight we're expecting clouds to build and further showers arriving on strong north-northwesterly winds across western parts of the country. In the east and northeast, much lighter winds, still a few showers here, but they'll be moving more slowly. Temperatures overnight tonight for many towns and cities around 4 to 6 Celsius, but most parts of the northeast around 2 or 3 with those winter winds. Tomorrow, and winds are coming in from the north and northwest once again, and they will be blustery around the west coast with fairly frequent showers and rumbles of thunder at times too. For many central and eastern parts of the country, fewer showers and lighter winds, but there still will be a lot of cloud around and brighter skies in those winds. So it's a day of weather somewhat similar to today, really. Temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius, so it will be just a touch cooler. And then looking ahead towards Thursday, we've got similar sort of conditions really, with low pressure and winds coming in from the north. That means it will be cool and showery at times, and those showers will be heavy. Again, there's a rumble of thunder, and the winds reasonably brisk as well from a north or northwesterly direction. If you're after something a little more dry and bright, Friday looks as though that's your day, because we have a small ridge of high pressure moving in, affording us largely dry and bright conditions throughout the day. One or two showers around, but for most it should be dry on Friday with some sunshine, cloud coming and going. Temperatures not doing much though, 10 to 13 Celsius, which is still below average for the time of year. Into the weekend we start to see something a little bit less chilly, with temperatures creeping up towards the mid-teens. There'll be some areas of cloud around and some outbreaks of rain, chiefly overnight Saturday to Sunday. That's the
digital radio,
BBC Sounds,
and your smart speaker.
play BBC Radio Scotland. It's 5:36. This is Drive Time on BBC Radio Scotland with me, Fiona Stalker. Good to have you with us. Lots to get in before 6 o'clock. Now, the political drama isn't limited to Westminster Day following the election of Q Manavannan as a regional MSP for the Scottish Greens. Q from India is on a student visa after completing a PhD at St Andrews University. So, what issues have arisen as a result of their election to Parliament? Our political correspondent Lindsay Bewes has been taking a closer look at why the move has caused uproar from other parties. Lindsay, good to speak to you. Q's from India, here studying at St Andrews. How does this limit whether they can fulfil their role as an MSP?
Hi Fiona, yes, good afternoon. There have been a lot of questions and claims about this. Firstly, we should say that a change in the law regarding eligibility rules for standing for election at Holyrood was unanimously passed during the last Parliament. Now that extended eligibility to include people with limited leave to remain in the UK. So Q Manavannan was eligible to stand for election and is eligible to sit as an MSP in this Parliament. They are currently here on a student visa, as you say, which we are told expires later this year. Now there are restrictions on the number of hours you can work when it comes to that type of visa, but those restrictions, we've been told by the Home Office, don't apply when it comes to elected MSP hours of work. The immigration rules set out the standing for or filling an elected post in a local or devolved government is not considered to be employment for the purpose of those immigration rules, and conditions restricting employment do not affect your ability to undertake those activities. And that is also the case for Q Manavannan setting up an office and employing staff in their capacity as an MSP.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. International students are not allowed to hire employees, are they? What does this mean for Q's office, though?
Yeah, that is not going to be an issue because of that exemption when it comes to that elected work. So there are going to be
Matt will come to you first. Matt in Surrey, how are you this evening?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Cases, those visas are approved. Now that will allow them to stay in the UK for a further 3 years, but opposition parties are angry about this because they're saying there's still this uncertainty for the electorate in terms of whether this MSP is going to be able to fulfil the full 5-year term in office here at Holyrood. Now Kirkmuirhill has added that at the same time they're also applying for something called a global talent visa, which would allow them to stay in the UK for the entire parliamentary term and beyond that. But that, we're told, is a more complex visa process and is very much decided depending on the attributes in individual applications, with no way of knowing if they will be able to obtain that visa. So that is where that uncertainty is coming from, that opposition parties are picking up on and saying that the Scottish Greens should have given greater consideration to when they selected Kirkmuirhill as a candidate.
And Lindsay, if there's a scenario that they have to revoke their position as MSP for Edinburgh and Lothians East, what happens?
Yeah, well, that is something, Fiona, that we do not have clarity on. We have asked the Parliament about that scenario. We don't know the answer. It's not clear if Kirkmuirhill lost their status and were no longer able to stay in the UK, if they would have to stand down as an MSP. If they did stand down, and that did happen, the next person on the Greens list of candidates for the Edinburgh and Lothian East region would be elected in their place, though.
A lot of questions. What have the Scottish Greens said? How have they responded?
Yeah, they have been pretty robust in their response to this, I have to say, Fiona. They're saying that Reform UK and the Tories, who've both criticised their decision on the selection process of this candidate, are really politicising this issue. They're saying it's actually sending a message to migrants living in Scotland about their place in the democratic process. They're describing what we've heard from the likes of Reform and the Tories as pathetic and disgusting. They say that they're looking forward to Kirkmuirhill serving the full 5-year term, and I think they are hoping that now that some of the answers around their visa status have been answered, that can be put to bed ahead of MSPs being sworn in on Thursday.
Thank you so much for that, Lindsay. Our Scottish politics correspondent, Lindsay Bewes there. Now, the uncertainty at Downing Street is having real-life consequences because it's impacting the market, and that impacts us. The cost of government borrowing has risen, the pound has dropped against the dollar and the euro. Experts are warning a change at the top of the Labour Party will see borrowing rates spike. Let's get a bit more on this from Vicky Price, Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economic and Business Research. Vicky, good to speak to you. Hoping you can make some sense of this. So I wonder if you could begin by breaking this down. A lot of people listening to the whole politics, and for a lot of people it must seem a little bit like, you know, in the thick of it, or the West Wing or something like that. You know, it's slightly chaotic at the moment, but it has implications for us, doesn't it? Why would a change of leader cause the price of oil to go up? What's the connection?
Well, the capital markets, which are the ones that fund really government debt, will be worried about what may happen next. So for the moment they are reasonably pacified that there are moves on the fiscal front, which this government is following. But of course we have already seen a number of, mini manifestos, if you like, from different groups within the Labour Party now saying that perhaps some of those fiscal rules need to be rethought, or perhaps there could be a little bit more spending and some cuts in some of the taxes that individuals pay, possibly in various areas, increasing, yes, of course, wealth taxes and so on. Some of those Labour Party people are suggesting.
Op de rotonde neem de eerste afslag naar B7078 towards Kirkmuirhill.
Oh, and the west. Clydeside Expressway remains busy. That's towards junction 19 for Anderston Cross, and a wee bit further back down Barton Road. It's also heavy as well, getting through those roadworks a wee bit further back. M80 southbound, heavy traffic around junction 7 for Hags and Coolside. 77 southbound remains slow as well between Plantation and 1 for Dumfries Road. 10 to 50 minutes to get through there. And taking a wee look at the Clyde Tunnel, it's actually moving a lot better northbound as the Govan side to the Partick side.
Travel with Arnold Clark. Get an extra £500 when you part exchange your car. Gary Spence. With Tesco Club Card. Lower the cost of...
Verlaag de snelheid verderop.
seen stock markets not doing well, so the FTSE 100 has come down today. We've seen, as you said,
Over
the
1
pound also
kilometer.
coming down. I think there's
Links
been
afslaan naar
concern about,
B7086
where we
Thornton
stand in
Road.
relation to other countries. So because of this weakness in terms of where the political path may go, instability is not good news. So the pound's been, dropped down a little bit, if you like, in terms of people's perceptions, but nothing major. So so the markets are waiting to see, and frankly, everything that happened today isn't giving them any serious encouragement as to whether there will be a resolution very quickly and what will happen in the future. So we might find ourselves under pressure. And the real problem for the UK is that we started this crisis, and now, of course, the political one as well, with interest rates higher and inflation higher than is the case for most of our competitors, and that, of course, leaves us in a very vulnerable situation. So you've got this political crisis on top, and that, of course, makes things worse, and it matters for individuals who borrow. It's going to be more expensive, possibly, than would otherwise have been the case, and we've seen already, in fact,
Links afslaan naar B7086 Thornton Road.
What we're seeing right now is not going to help very much.
Just to bring listeners up to date, Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy has just been
Over 300 meter. Op de rotonde sla linksaf naar B7086 Strathaven Road.
Vicky, what can number 10
Dan op de rotonde neem de tweede afslag naar B7086 Strathaven Road.
Well, the one thing that I have to say is that we're not changing course necessarily in terms of where the fiscal position is. I think that's the most important thing for the markets themselves. But what they really need to also say to the people who voted, I presume, is that we are going for growth in a serious way now, whether it's Europe, which is absolutely important, but with actual specifics. Whether it's other areas where businesses are being suffering, so whether one looks again at what those extra taxes have been on businesses right now. Of course, you still need to collect all those taxes anyway to keep the fiscal side
Ga rechtdoor gedurende 10,7 kilometer naar A71 Kirk Street.
Possibilities there might be and policies there might be that they could have. Of course, the King's speech has something in there in terms of greater government intervention, the steel sector industry being sort of nationalised, other areas where they could help businesses and, of course, enterprise and research and development, all these areas which help. But a little bit of reassurance, I think, is probably what people would be looking for in terms of growth, because obviously everyone is going to start worrying about their jobs. They're not going to go out and spend, and therefore growth is simply not going to be very fast.
Vicky, thank you as always for making sense of it. Vicky Price, Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economic and Business Research. Let's head up to Inverness, where Amy has your sports.
We may or may not see the race for the Premiership title conclude tomorrow night. Tonight, though, the scrap to stay or even get into the Premiership continues as the focus shifts to the other end of the table. Livingston's drop down to the Championship's already been confirmed. They face Dundee United. Looking to avoid the same fate as the West Lothian side, at risk St Mirren travel to Aberdeen, while Kilmarnock need a win at home to Dundee to ensure their safety. Their manager Neil McCann telling media he had to remind his players that they've not secured their Premiership status just yet after the weekend's result against St Mirren moved them 4 points clear of danger.
It's kind of been a wee bit of a happy environment, but we've had to kind of sharpen our knives just to make sure that everybody is aware of the situation. We haven't done anything in terms of securing a Premiership status yet. We've gone a long way to put ourselves in a good position, but there's work still to be done.
And it's not all done firm in host Partick Thistle looking to make the move into the top flight in their semi-final, and Clyde play Hamilton Accies in the League One playoff final. We're joined now by former Falkirk, Dundee and St Mirren player Rory Loy. He's part of the sports sound team this evening. Hi Rory.
Hi Amy, how are you doing?
Well, thank you. You'll be at Rugby Park. We heard there from Neil McCann. Huge relief from his players after the weekend, but still work to do. As a player, yourself, do you think they can keep that focus and make sure they don't slip up tonight then?
Yeah, I do. The home record under Neil McCann has been under other previous managers as well. Steve Clark, Derek McInnes has been phenomenal. So the fact that they're at home is a good start for them, because they've been phenomenal, as I say, since Neil McCann and Billy Dodges came in. And you have to say that Aberdeen are on a rich vein of form in terms of wins. So St Mirren going up there is going to be a tricky one. However, Neil McCann won't want any favours. He won't want to regain their status through help from Aberdeen. He'll want to go out, win the match tonight against Dundee, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't. They've been really, really good, and I think that away win at the weekend, Amy, is a huge lift for them. To be able to go over the line away from home is massive.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a real boost for them going into this, and it doesn't look great for St Mirren. Meanwhile, you know, they started the season reasonably well. They've gone on to lose 20 of their 36 games. Their manager too back in March to Aberdeen. It'd be a bit of a kick when they're down if it was a trip to Aberdeen that confirmed their fate and relegation.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, you know, there'd be a degree of irony to it, I suppose, but, you know, if they do end up in 11th spot, it's not going to be on the back of tonight's game. It's going to be in the back of what you've just described there, Amy, 28 defeats in 36 games, which for St Mirren over the last few seasons is really, really poor. There wasn't too many signs of it early doors, but they just have nosedived in terms of confidence, momentum, and we talk about these things, they're all a bit cliched in football, how strong momentum and these things are, and we talk about these things, and St Mirren have just lost it, and it just shows if you do lose it, you can be on a hiding to nothing, and you could fall down the league like a stone.
Yeah, and Livingston will be playing the Championship football tomorrow night. They're at Tannadice to play Dundee United. We turn our attention to the Premiership playoff, Dunfermline against Partick Thistle. The Jags head coach Mark Wilson, you know, saying it's not the time for nostalgia. He's facing his old captain and manager Neil Lennon. How do you think that game might play out? That'd be an interesting one for it, and it's obviously the semi-final. They've still got further to go.
Yeah, you know, listening to the podcasts from the BBC all week, in the mornings, and different outlets as well. It seems to divide real opinion, this one, on whether, you know, it'll be Dunfermline or Partick Thistle to come out on top, and it is a really tricky one to call. I think the fact that Neil Lennon's managed to turn over 3 top 6 teams in the Cup, will play Celtic and they get through against Arbroath, there's a little bit of a gut feeling amongst people that they may be able to just go the whole hog and be the first team to finish 4th and get promotion. However, Partick Thistle have been a plucky side all season, really good defensively, strong defensively, so it does have all the makings of a really entertaining tie. Dunfermline Arbroath wasn't the most entertaining to watch. Dunfermline got the job done, but I think there could be a hell of a lot more goals over the 2 legs for these two.
Yeah, the focus very much has been in the top part of the table this season, but the bottom half, has it delivered as well as other years, do you think?
In the Premiership? Yes. It's exciting when it gets down to the last few games and there's still places to be decided. Livingston were probably stronger than their results suggested, and I know over the course of a season people say the league doesn't lie, but I do think they're unfortunate not to gather a few more points. However, I do think ultimately they were going to get relegated either way, and you never know, it might go to the last game of the season. However, what I will say is I think there's far more chance of getting a conclusion tonight for 11th spot than there is of getting a conclusion on first place tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Hopefully it'll be exciting both nights, and said Rory Loy there, part of the sports side of the team, who will be covering it, bringing all the action from on B Radio Scotland. And of course we have the Dunfermline Partick Thistle Premiership semi-final playoff that is live on the BBC Scotland channel, and we'll be back tomorrow to build up to the top half and potentially title decider.
Amy, look forward to that. Thank you so much. Amy Macbeth there with the sport live from Inverness at 6 o'clock. Brian is here with Get It On. What have you got for us tonight? Loved last night's theme. What have you got tonight?
Good. Yeah, we had good fun with that. It's You and Me songs tonight. So, Case of You, Take Me With You. Lots of people saying we've got You and Me and You in songs, From Me to You, Beatles being a good example of that. If you want to get in touch with yours, 80295. Stevie Wonder's got a Me and a You in one of his best songs. We're going to kick off with that, in about 6 minutes time.
Obviously I've got a dance one, Set You Free, in Trance.
Oh, I can see you raving in the car.
Yes, I will be. Thank you for that. I look forward to that. Now, from today, only learner drivers will be allowed to book, change or swap their own driving test. The rule change is aimed at stopping abuse of the system, where touter use automatic computer programs known as bots to book multiple tests and sell them on at inflated prices. Our business correspondent, Simon Browning, has more.
Learner drivers are waiting up to 5 months for driving tests as they battle huge demand and scammers who book tests and resell them for upwards of £250. The driving test system is still overwhelmed after the pandemic. The government brought in military examiners to try clear the backlog. One of the core problems has been fraud by some instructors who use learners' licence details to log into the booking system to book, swap or cancel learners' tests, often without their knowledge. Bots also plague the booking system, keeping honest users locked out of available slots. Driving instructors say they're regularly offered hundreds of tests for sale on WhatsApp groups which are readily available. Robert contacted the BBC Motorway after he paid more than £740 for 3 driving tests because he needed his licence to join the police. He knew he was being scammed by resellers that needed the tests.
I felt like I was being scammed at the start, but once I got the booking confirmation, that's when I felt a bit of relief that this was not actually a scam. I actually got like the test slot a lot more earlier, but the expense though was crazy.
From today, it's against the law for anyone but the learner to book, manage or amend their test, as the DVSA cracks down on third parties logging in and abusing the system. And from next month, swaps to tests can only happen at the 3 test centres local to the learner. The DVSA says learners should only pay £62 for a driving test, more at weekends and bank holidays. Legitimate driving schools are waiting to see if scammers obey the new law and if more tests become available for the many learners waiting. They say they've repeatedly reported these problems and these changes are a long time coming.
So business correspondent Simon Browning there. Now, before we hand you over to Brian with Get It On, let me just recap on what we've learned over the time that Drive Time has been on air, because it's been a busy programme. Just to bring you up to date, 4 ministers have now resigned and called for Prime Minister Keir Starmer to step down. One of the 4, former Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, has told Starmer that deeds, not words, matter. Full transcript of her letter is on the BBC News Live page. Just in the last 20 minutes or so, David Lammy, who is the Deputy PM, has said Keir Starmer has his full support. He's urged Labour colleagues to step back and take a breath. He was speaking outside Number 10 not that long ago. He said that the Deputy Prime Minister, he said that we must put the country before party. He said that the only person who benefits from the Labour Party navel-gazing, is what he called it, is Nigel Farage, and he's asked colleagues not to benefit the Reform leader or his party. Now, more than 80 Labour MPs, I think the figure now is 87, have now urged Starmer to quit immediately or draw up a timetable to leave. But meanwhile, over 100 MSPs are understood to have signed a statement backing the Prime Minister, saying it's no time for a leadership contest. Now let's bring you a little bit more of some of the reaction that we got. Earlier on, we spoke to the First Minister John Swinney, also to the Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar, and to his deputy Jackie Bailey.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious the Prime Minister's leadership is over, and it's just a matter of time, and it's up to the Prime Minister to decide exactly how he goes about ending his premiership, but he's clearly...